Hello and good evening. Welcome to episode 12 of the Spurs review. Yes, yesterday Tottenham Hotspur won the Champions League, the League, the FA Cup and League Cup all rolled into one. If you are reading any post today on social media, that is. Welcome, David. Welcome back, my man. How are you, Mr. Irish Hotspur? You good?
No, look, thanks for having me back. Yeah, I just took a little break to sort of unscramble the head. But look, big man's back and he's here to stay. So thanks for having me back again.
Hang on, here to stay. It depends how much you perform, mate. It depends if you're on form again like Sonny or not. We'll let you know. We'll let you know. Pete is here, as always, sipping on a lovely Coca-Cola, eating some whatever he's eating. How are you, mate? You good?
Finished it, yeah, mate. I finished it. I'm good, mate. You all right? How you doing, boys?
All good, mate. Good, mate. All good.
Welcome back, Dave.
Kuva 99, who is like furniture. He may as well move into my house. How are you, Kuva? You well?
I was until a second ago, yeah.
Yeah.
Doing well. Yeah, good to see David back on the channel, and Alex always welcome on the channel as well. Can't go a full week without Mr. Box Office at some point.
Well, listen, I've been speaking to Alex today about becoming a regular, so we're having those contract negotiations. I'm hoping that it won't last.
Are you monitoring the situation? I'm monitoring the situation.
I'm in talks about meetings, about a meeting.
Laying the groundwork.
Alex THFC, Mr. Box Office. Good evening to you. Happy Sunday. How you doing, mate? You well?
Yeah, so it's all good. It's a calm Professor B.O. AKA Mr. Box Office, another name to the revenue, like they say. You know what I mean? So
Mr. B.O.
Yeah, really? Mr. O. Standing for Box Office. B.O. standing for Box Office. Calm, very calm. Before the storm, because there's still things to look at really at the end of the day. So looking forward to this, and thank you for inviting me.
No, always, mate. Always. Everyone's always welcome on the show. And there's 155 of you in the chat already. Welcome. Please get your comments in. Let's keep it clean. We're all Spurs fans. Let's just debate. Guys, Savva's in the mud, apparently. I'm going to start with you, David. Savva's in the mud. Heung-min Son is back on form. He's got 2 goals against Preston. Look, on a serious note, much needed for both Tottenham to have a professional performance, I think we could call that. Wasn't the world's best football, but we got the job done. And Sonny, from a personal note, grabbing 2 goals, which we hope is now the kickstart for his season, don't we?
Look, for me, I think Son's performance yesterday is probably the only plus we can take from that game. Everything else we already know. Sessegnon shit, Doherty shit. We already know this sort of stuff. It's not. I didn't see too much yesterday. I haven't seen in games gone by when a lot of these guys have played, if I'm being brutally honest. Now, look, so I'm not going to get carried too much away with yesterday's result, although I do enjoy winning. Let's make that clear. But look, with Son, I'm not going to get carried away on Sonny either. But what I will say, it was good to see him getting back to some of the things that we love about Sonny, getting on the ball, beating players, taking them out of the game, creating space, making things happen. And just from a personal point of view, it was nice to see him with a smile back on his face yesterday. Of course, getting the 2 goals. Now, look, to counter that, it is only against Southend. But, so he's not really out of the mud yet. So let's wait and see what he does against City. But, you know, to play Sonny out there yesterday and for him to get the goals, it would have been worse for him to come out with more or less the same performances we're used to seeing from him this season and no goals. So the fact that he stepped up yesterday is a huge plus. But look, let's wait and see what he does. But I'm hoping yesterday can be a catalyst for the rest of Son's season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Pete, let me come over to you. Listen, I know yesterday wasn't just about Heung-min Son, but it kind of feels like that now the day after. It feels like this result is bigger for him than anybody else that played, right? Or do you see it differently?
I don't. We'll find out the next game, because we've had this full storm before. Remember the Leicester game. Here he is. He's off now. He's off and running. Next few games, crap. And then he didn't score again till Palace. Then it was, here we go. He's back now. Then the next few games, crap. So I think we've got to put it into context that it was Preston. Do you know what I mean? He's not going to get that time and space. Hopefully, that is the sign of him coming back. But I ain't gonna put any money in it. Put it that way, because we need a firing Son back.
Yeah, for sure.
before the end of the season. We need more goals in the team. We can't just be just one man band at the moment. And Harry Kane carrying the team week in, week out. So hopefully he can start chipping in, and maybe the other lad Danjuma can start chipping in as well. Obviously, he got off to a decent start, so we'll see.
Yeah, we'll talk about Ryan Sessegnon a bit later, Ian. Let's look at some positives for once, man. We won a game 3-0. Sonny scoring goals. I'll move on to you, Kuva, before I come to Mr. Box Office. Look, I don't want to labour the point on Son. It was great. He scored a couple of goals. It was good as well for me to see another attacking option come off the bench. And for me, I thought he got in the right positions. He looked like he wanted to make the runs off the forwards. He wanted to be in the box. Got his goal. Wasn't the cleanest strike, but listen, you and I would, die for a finish like that to be a professional footballer. So, what did you make of those options again there? You're on mute, Kuva.
Damn it! Starting off before I heard.
Start it again.
Yeah. Let's start off with a little bit of a gloat and do a "told you so," Savva.
Oh. Here we go. Go on.
This is what I was talking about with Sonny. I just feel like you have to play him into form. This was a match that was needed for him, scoring a worldie and then taking another tidy finish. And not just that, but there's the all-round game, like David was mentioning a minute ago. There was movement from him, taking players on, drawing them out of position. He was putting in an all-round decent performance for me. It was much needed. He just let me down by not getting that third goal. So, he's rubbish.
The I told you so of he's going to score a hat-trick. You actually didn't tell me so, did you?
Well, I've got the scoreline right. And it's Conte's fault for taking him off. Otherwise, he would have got that third.
I know. To be honest, I did think, what are you... Like, if I was Son, I would have been really peed off. If I was Son, 2 goals, they're there for the taking, and then he takes him off, right?
To be fair, over his career, he's always been a sort of brace type of man, hasn't he? He doesn't get too greedy for the hat tricks. He's always the 2 deadly goals that win a game for you. It's we can say it's only Preston, but I mean you only beat who's in front of you. It was a good performance. If it was all that easy, then the rest of them should have looked great as well, but they didn't.
Sure.
Otherwise, Danjuma coming in, getting a goal, like you said, it might not have been the tidiest of finish, but it looked it at first. You thought, bloody hell, that's clinical.
Yeah,
and then you realise he scuffed it.
Yeah.
But
it went in,
was there in the right place, and the ball went away. That's what you do if you're a goal scorer, isn't it? All in all, good feeling. I think that mentioning earlier that the most important for me, couple of goals for Sonny and a smile on his face, because if we are going to get somewhere in the FA Cup, my God, we need Sonny firing. It can't be all on Kane.
And in the top 4, right, Kuva? Like if we're gonna, if the FA Cup, great, yeah, obviously, but top 4 is a Daniel Levy thing. We all know that top 4 is what players want. We need a fit, firing Hogman's Son. But if I can come over to you, Alex. He's got to kick on now, right? Because we've already seen this once this season when he did it against Leicester. He's got to kick on from here, hasn't he? What we can't see is another 7-8 games now where Sonny goes back to not being able to control the ball or not getting on the goals. He's got to kick on, right?
Yeah, he has to kick on. I think he was good. I think there was good finishes, yes. I think it was a full storm against Leicester. I was there at Leicester, and for me, it was the perfect time for Sonny to come on and score those goals because Leicester were trying to on the attack to try and get, and there were spaces for him. So that's why it worked out for him against Leicester. Simple as that. And I wasn't getting excited about it, no, because I sat there and thought, well, against another tight team, you'll struggle. I think the pleasing thing is that he was playing on his own yesterday, and he looked good. Yeah, he looked okay, but it was against Preston. I knew exactly what the reaction from Tottenham fans was. It's like Son's back, Son's on the rise. You know what I mean? It's just, again, I'm pleased for him, but it shouldn't be just on one player anyway. It should be on all the other players anyway to do well anyway. So, he did his job. He did what he and helped us to get through the game. And there were very good finishes to his credit. Danjuma scored in his debut. Well done. There's not really much to say on it, to be honest with you. You got through. That's a well done. There's nothing really
That's
else
not
to
very
say.
Mr. Box Office, is it? I mean, you can't really say any more on it. I mean, all right, next time I come to you, Alex,
it's a Sunday. It's a Sunday.
It's a Sunday. It's a Sunday. I mean, guys, look, look, great. I'm ready again. But look, let's be fair. That this was long overdue. He needed to get goals, but more importantly, if we come away from Heung-min Son, it was a better performance from a professional point of view for me. We've seen performances this year where a lot of times we've been 1-0 down at half time, or we're 2-0 down in games, or we didn't turn up against Portsmouth in the first half and away at Forest in the League Cup. So this was another potential banana skin that I think that we just didn't need. And I don't think at any point we really looked in danger. Does anyone disagree with that? Or do you agree that it was quite a comfortable evening for us?
I agree and I disagree to a certain extent. I think, look, when you look at it overall, it was a comfortable evening. But there were a couple of moments there, like, Sanchez had 2 moments there where a better team probably would have went on to score a goal from that. Again, the same problems, free kicks into the box. We don't usually win the first headers, which leads to a scrambling around the box. You would like to think a better team probably would have put us to bed in that regard as well. So, look, I still think the issues across the back line are still there. At the end of the day, you can't keep affording to give these teams any sort of little bit of hope, because there was a 10-minute spell there in the second half where Preston were sort of on top and a better team would have punished us.
Yeah. Yeah. Did anyone else feel worried at any time? I mean, I agree with David there. There was a couple of typical heart-in-mouth moments from Davinson Sanchez when he's one-on-one, the ball's in the air.
That was unbelievable.
Oh, you're thinking, oh my God, I've never seen a defender, guys, at Spurs as bad at following the flight of a ball. You know what I mean? We've seen it loads of times before. The ball's coming down, you're thinking a top centre half just goes and clears that. Anyone else feel worried at any moments? Did Preston do anything to remotely worry us, or was that game always in the bag?
I think go on, Alex.
Corners. I think it was just down to Preston. It's their level. Their level wasn't a decent team would have punished us. I think. I think it summed it all up that people said that Sanchez was the best man on the pitch, which I was just sitting there thinking, really, really, this is the thing. So, and now that people are going to be clambering for him to be in the team next time. You know what I mean? So, for me, it's Preston. No disrespect to Preston. I'm trying to not be disrespectful, but the fact is, the only time you're going to really find out whether this team's got minerals at the moment is a few weeks' time, a couple of weeks' time when we've got 2 games a week, because, this game is just about getting through. Like I said, you look at the teams that are out now. Liverpool are out. You've got Chelsea that are out. Who else is there? Newcastle are out of the competition. Arsenal out of the competition. So, you got an opportunity now to move it forward now. I'm saying right now, this is a good opportunity to win a cup this season.
Yeah.
Doesn't change my opinion on the manager, because we will get onto that later on. But you're not going to get anything spoiler, because you got the spoiler alert already. I've already said it already. But my point is, there is an opportunity there for me. But when it's 2 games a week, we'll see whether this team's going to be good enough. For me, no. But, right. that's the thing. But we got through and we've done well. But I'm not going over the top about it like some people are going over the top, which was predictable again. You know what I mean? But, that's how I go. Back to you, Savva. Sorry.
Thank you. Pete Kuva. We are seeing this a lot in this fan base at the moment, aren't we? That, we're terrible. We win a game that we should win, and all of a sudden it's, oh my God, everything's amazing in the world again. Everyone who said anything bad about Conte or the team are in the mud. And don't we just need to get to a point, guys, where we kind of plateau a little bit, and it's not like that every single week with people's opinions? Don't you think it's getting a little bit? It's getting knee jerk every game, Pete.
I don't think we'll ever get to that point, mate. It's always been that way. There's too many factions at the moment amongst the fan base. You got people who are just obsessed with one particular player, and as soon as he has a good game, out they come. Everyone's, you've never doubted him and all that. You got people who are obsessed with the manager. and will back him no matter what he does. You got people who will blame the owners for anything that happens as well. The fan base is fractured, so there's no surprise you get once one of these elements has a good night, then out they all come. Do you know what I mean? But I thought the game was okay. It wasn't exciting. I think I wouldn't say alarming because nothing I know seen before, but I thought Sessegnon was absolute pony again. I mean, that boy is. I'll be honest, he's worse than Royal because he's got the attributes to be better than he should be, and Royal hasn't. He hasn't got the brain. He hasn't got the pace. He hasn't got nothing. Sessegnon has got the physical. He's got the pace. He's got the physical attributes to be better than he is, and he is fucking terrible. I mean, how far? I mean, it was League One the other week at Portsmouth, and he still looked the worst of the two left wing backs on the pitch. And again last night, he is getting away with murder. That boy. He owes Emerson Royal some serious beers because as long as he's around, he takes the heat off him because he should have been ripping that up last night. And he beat the man a couple of times and put it straight over the crossbar. I mean that cross he did, he tried to float it and it went off before he even got near the goal. And you're like, what? How is this man in our team? How are we playing this man? It is a joke.
Yeah, I mean, Kuva. Sorry,
it was a bit grainy on the stream I was watching, but I was watching back stream with Hollywood Phil, and he was a little bit ahead on me on the timer, and he said, "Oh, masterclass coming up for Sess here," and he kept a straight face, and I said, "Oh, here we go. It's going to be another one of these," and it's that one Pete's just talked about. He was trying to float one over to the back post, and at first glance, I thought, "Oh, the defender's made a good block there, gone out for a corner." Never touched it. It was all Sess.
Before it went past the first post, near post, it was off the pitch. It's not as if it went to the back stick and then dropped off. It was as soon as it left his foot, it was off the pitch.
Do you know?
Sorry,
do you know what though, guys? Like, look, I agree. I think Sessegnon has regressed. I don't think he's got to be shipped on. Yesterday sealed that. It wasn't any different to what we've seen when he played against Portsmouth, who are a worse caliber team than Preston. But what I will say for the likes of Sessegnon and Emerson is at least they continue to try to do the right thing. How many times did Matt Doherty get the ball on the right-hand side and just pass it back inside every single time? He didn't want to do anything. He's a stat pattern, Matt Doherty is. And I know, look, I have my big problems with Sessegnon and Emerson, but at least they continue to try to do the right things. Matt Doherty just refused. And I actually think Matt Doherty should be more criticised coming out of this game than what someone like Sessegnon did, because at least Sessegnon continued to offer, even though he didn't do anything, at least he continued to offer and continued to look to do the right things. Whereas Matt Doherty just blatantly refused.
To be fair, David, I don't think most fans realised Doherty was playing.
That's my point.
Yeah.
This is my point. I get the criticism of Sessegnon and Emerson, and we need to be doing better in these positions. But Matt Doherty just completely escapes criticism every single time. I whipped out my notepad after 5 minutes yesterday because he passed the ball inside twice, and it ended up being passed inside 10 times by him yesterday, back inside every single time. And in an Antonio Conte system, you can't do that. You've got to be brave as a wing back. You've got to be able to beat your man, get crosses into the box. That's what that game was about yesterday. Use the wide positions, beat your man, get nice balls into the box, and give your forward players who were all sitting inside yesterday something to feed off. But it's a knock-on effect because Perisic, Kulu, and Son didn't want to make any runs into the box yesterday because they know the crosses aren't coming. So they all end up sitting inside. None of them make the runs in behind. So I do think we've got to include Matt Doherty in the Sessegnon criticism. We just have to, because he done absolutely nothing and he refused to try anything as well.
Sorry. I suppose you could make the argument, without Kane playing, perhaps we're aiming to play a little bit more in front of the opponent's box rather than get the crosses in. But it's still a weak argument, isn't it? It's if you look at Sessegnon actually trying to put crosses in, although doing it badly. Yeah, I think you got a point. Doherty just did nothing. It's playing just to make up the numbers. That's all he was doing.
Yeah, but he does show up on some games, though, where Sessegnon, every time he plays, he's dreadful.
But does he, though?
Well, yeah. I mean, he has a good partnership with Kulu. Them two seem to have a good understanding. Kulu plays better when he's there, when Doherty's with him. He scored a couple of goals. He looks far more comfortable. I'm not saying he's great by any stretch of imagination, but I'd always rather have him there. Out of the three,
yeah.
Doherty's the best one.
I think that's the problem, isn't it? Most clubs argue about who the best player is for the position. We argue about who the least worst is.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think that when all is said and done, guys, let's be honest. We want to live in a world, hopefully next season, where Doherty, Sessegnon, and Royal are not in the Tottenham Hotspur squad. Let's be really, really honest. I listen. Sometimes I look at players and it's like I feel for them because I just think they're not good enough. Right? For me, Sessegnon definitely fits into that bracket. I don't think he improved from when he was younger. I think he was actually bought off of his form the year before he was bought, not the year he was bought, if you know what I mean. When he was playing in a more advanced position for Fulham in the Championship, he got 15, 16 goals. We didn't get him that summer. We then got him the summer after he'd actually had a really tough year in the Premier League with Fulham. You've got Royal, who I'm sorry, he's not for me in any way, shape or form. And Doherty, let's be honest, Doherty every now and then chips in with something, but another one that when the ball goes out to him, you don't filled with any sort of hope that a great ball's going to be whipped in or a man's going to be beat. And I suppose that's probably a nice segue, guys, into a guy that can do that, because look, we know we've got a Doherty coming back on the left-hand side who can do that. We know that. But we now we've had the here we go from Fabrizio Romano. We must be the only club that has the here we go, and then still 24, 48 hours later, we still haven't here we go'd. We're still waiting. Pedro Porro, guys, I know it's been talked about loads and loads and loads, but it looks like in all intents and purposes, he's joining over the next 24 hours. How needed is this guy? And how difficult is this guy? Has he got it? Because he's got so much expectation now, David, that he's got to come in and hit the ground running because of how bad Royal and Doherty have performed on that right-hand side.
Look, Savva, I'll be honest. This is one I think I'm excited about. And I'll be honest, I think this is one most of the Spurs fan base can actually get behind. I think when you look at it, right, you look at numbers alone. This season, he's played 25 games. He's got three goals and 11 assists. Matt Doherty's played 15 games and got 1 goal. Emerson has played, I think it's, I'll tell you now, give me 1 second. I have it written down here. Emerson has played 23 games and got 1 goal, 1 assist. And Jed Spence has seen 41 minutes. Now, when you go back and you look at them stats and then you compare it to what you've seen in games, we always tap down the left-hand side. Everything comes down our left-hand side or through the middle. Nothing comes from the right unless it's a piece of magic from two. So when you look at Porro, I think he will definitely come in. He'll add assists. He'll add goals. But not only that, though, Savva, if you go back and look at the highlights of his crossing. It's the weight of his crossing. When you look at the likes of Emerson, Doherty, Sessegnon, it's more so they just want to cross the ball and put it in the box, but they don't actually care where it goes, just as long as it gets in the box. Whereas Porro, he has a weight of cross. He knows what weight to put on the ball. I think when you look at his crossing, he can hit early crosses as well. Son's going to feed off that. Kane's going to feed off that. Kulu's going to feed off that. So it should bring more goals for the forward players as well. It then gives us a different dimension that we can get down the right-hand side and down the left-hand side, which is what Conte needs in his system. Perisic one side, Porro the other. Now, where the questions comes in with Porro is more the height. Can he handle the physicality? Well, anyone that does real research into Porro, this guy celebrates tackles, blocks. He's got a similar mentality to someone like Christian Romero. And with how good them two are on the ball, we've got a big problem with teams pressing us. Our right-hand side should now be press resistant, where they should be able, between Romero and Porro, they should be able to play out. Porro can dribble the ball, he can pass the ball, he can cross the ball. He can also take set pieces, which means Gio can use him as well as Perisic on these set pieces. He takes free kicks, corners, and he can take penalties as well. So for me, I think and it's a first choice. I think. Look, Brian Daigle so famously uses what I say about Kyle Walker. Ever since Kyle Walker, the signings have got progressively worse in the right wing back, right back sort of position. Progressively worse as we've gone on. And I think hopefully we have got it sorted out in Pedro Porro. And for me, I'm very excited about this guy. Now, if you want to be really scrutinise the deal, the two things you would aim at him is he does suffer from a lot of niggles throughout seasons. that's one thing we can't really afford to suffer, because then we're stuck with the same shit we're already seeing. And he is a bit of a hothead. But I don't mind that. I like that. I like that aggression. I like that hot-headedness. So for me, I think him and Romero down that side can form a bromance. So for me, I do think it's a huge plus, and I do think it will help us out going forward. And defensively, he is actually a lot better than what people actually give him credit for, to be honest, in my opinion. So for me, I'm all for this sign. I think there's a lot more. I think the pros vastly outweigh the cons of this deal. And it's just good to see that finally, you know, we've got our number one target, and we've hopefully addressed a long outstanding issue that predates Conte.
Yeah, Alex, I'm going to come to you. I agree with all of that, David. Just before I do, sorry, I don't know your name. I'm so sorry. I just don't know your name. Thank you very much for the super chat. And I said, did you see the Perisic pass? And hi, Alex. So
one of Alex's fan club.
There's but and then there's also put in a comment to say that they can't stick around. They're going to watch Napoli versus Roma, which should be a good game for many different reasons. I mean, Mr. Box Office, let me come to you. Pedro Porro can play in a back four, can play wing back. Looks like he's dynamic going forward. Got the assists, and lots of people now are finally saying that we've got the replacement for Kyle Walker, albeit 6 years later. Is this a case where we need to calm down a little bit, or should we be massively excited about the Spurs, Alex?
I need to see this guy first to see how good he is when I'm at the stadium, to be honest with you. I'm never always jumping up and down about a player, especially a player which should have really came in through the door really at the beginning of January. If we're talking about our first target, let's be honest here. Should it be in the summer, if we're really honest? You know, because everyone knows what Conte needs in his system, you know, and if this was our first number one target, he should have been here a long time ago.
Yeah.
So he's not. I mean, I never really think that one player can change a team's fortune straight away. But then people will tell me about last year about the two players that came in January. But we just have to wait and see, Savva. I don't know. I don't think it's going to change the way that we play. I don't think we're going to play great football. And that, for me, is the main thing for me. Is it going to change?
Alex,
it's not going to change.
Let me sit on the fence here. And this is from someone who doesn't like particularly the way Conte plays. But let me sit on the fence here with this. Isn't the whole point of a Conte system that the creativity and the outlets are the wing-backs? And isn't that what this guy offers? The same way with, if we fast forward to next year, the same way with Doherty. Isn't that what both of these guys offer? An actual outlet that can receive the ball on the run and keep going with the ball, rather than Emerson, Sess, Doherty, who like to get the ball, check inside 5 yards and pass.
Well, that's what I'm expecting. That's what I'm expecting from what I'm hearing. Because I mean, big up to David. I never really agree with him, but from what he's just said there, you can see the proof there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That this guy is what we need. You know what I mean? But I don't just go on stats. Because if I did go on stats, I'll be agreeing with Will every single time. But I'm not that sort of guy. You know what I mean? I don't play FIFA. I'm a guy that has to see this guy.
Alex, 11 assists. I mean, look, some stats don't lie, right? Like,
No, listen. It's good, but you're playing in Portugal. You know what I mean? And I need to see him for myself and see how good he is in the flesh. You know what I mean? So for me, I'm not. I think you said something which was quite interesting. You said it on the stream before. You said because the transfer has taken so long, I'm fed up at the moment.
It's lost a bit of excitement.
It's lost it. It's lost it. And as I said before, if he came, this signing should have come in a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's the answer. We need defenders, mate. We need defenders as well.
Well,
and as far as I'm concerned as well. It'd be interesting to see what happens when in the summer, like I said, because I don't think Conte's going to be here after this season. So how is that going to work out?
We'll talk about Conte in a bit. I mean, just quickly, just before I come to you, Kuva. Listen, people, there's 454 of you in the chat. and only 84 likes. Come on, let's get that over the 100 mark really quickly. Thank you for the super chat so far. Please please subscribe to everyone in here. You've got Alex THFC. You've got the Free Spurs boys, Kuva and the Kang. You've got the Irish Hotspur. Please, it's great to listen to every different channel's point of view. Otherwise, it just becomes a monopoly and it gets boring. And just a little bit of breaking news from Fabrizio Romano. Sorry, it's not about us, but just to you know, so Chelsea are back.
There's a shot.
Chelsea are back in advanced talks for £120 million for Enzo Fernandez. I think we can probably say that will get done now that they're on the 29th. So lots of stuff going on elsewhere. Kuva, I was hoping when I saw the Here We Go last night, I was hoping that we'd be coming on this show going, guys, there it is, first full signing, not loan, over the line. With this in mind and how long it's taking to get over the line, would you expect to see him, Kuva, if he does join, fingers crossed, straight into the 11 next Sunday against Man City at home?
Yeah. Just if you're spending this much on a wing back and he's not ready for the first team, it's probably a poor choice, isn't it? It's not like he's on an injury layoff at the moment. He's actively playing, middle of the season, should be fully fit, ready to go. If it's a case of he's not ready on that game, then you've got to question what our transfer policy is exactly. Because surely,
do you think Conte will? There's a different question. He should. Do you think Conte will throw him straight in? Man City, the champions of England, at home. He's going to be playing against. Whoever. Grealish on that side.
Conte always seems to be reluctant to throw people in if he thinks they're not ready for it. But
sure.
Does that become a question of adapting to the tactics, and it might need a couple of weeks because he's worried about that. He doesn't want to throw games away just because players don't know how the system is with the club. So take that into consideration. But at the end of the day, look who he's competing with for the wing-back spot. We're talking Emerson Royale and Doherty. So Jed Spence clearly not on the cards at any point for whichever reason you want to believe about him. Personally, I believe the tales about him being quite a bad influence, but quite a bad customer to deal with, a bit too full of himself. Could well be he rubbed the manager up the wrong way. But if we spent this long on the transfer and he doesn't even get in the team, within the next couple of weeks, you've got to say, what the hell is going on? Because it is pointless. This is our equivalent of a marquee signing. We needed players all over the pitch, but if this is the one we got, it's a start. I think that was said earlier. At least it's something. Some sort of step in the right direction, even if it's a slow one. He's got to play. That's it. All this talk of backing Conte, it comes down to if the player's going to be on the pitch, you can see clearly there's something the manager wants there, isn't there, or has to play. We've got a hell of a lot of right wing backs. He's got to surely be the first choice now.
Yeah.
Savva, I've got to say the same thing as Kuva because I've to be honest, I would play him straight away. To be honest with you, if we get him signed.
I would, mate. Yeah,
because it's just for me the anticipation, and I think the problem is at the moment when you've got Porro there, right, and the anticipation of him. If you play Emerson or Doherty, you're going to have dogs abuse for them the first game. You're going to have lots of abuse for them. And all they're going to say is, get Porro on, get him on. You know what Tottenham fans are like? You throw something at them, they're going to snatch it straight away, aren't they? And Porro's that man, So for me, I think you've got no choice but to do it because you've been talking about it so long that it's just got to that point where you just got to go, and if he thinks he swims, that's how it is, isn't it?
Just on that point, just quickly, I think we have to realise that there is a chance that this guy can come straight in and hit the ground running, and that shouldn't be too much use to get into Antonio Conte's used to Conte's tactics because he's used to playing in a 3-4-3 for Ruben Amorim in Sporting. So he already knows the position and what's required of him. So there shouldn't be too much adaptation. So he should be ready to walk straight into that first team. But I do want to let Pete in. I'm aware of letting Pete in and then come back to me because I want to make a quick point on
Porro. Go on, mate. Finish your point. Point, son.
So on the Porro deal as well, it's kind of like, I understand where all your guys' frustration is coming from it because it's clear to see that we were happy to sack off the Arsenal and the Man City game, which is valuable points, in order to try and save 10 million. But we ended up paying the release clause and a bit above it anyway. So it's kind of like, why, if you were going to end up doing that anyway, the last 29 days has been a waste of time. You could have got that done on the 1st January. There's the release clause, paid, bring him over, get him into the team. But we didn't. So it does show that the owners are willing to sacrifice games and the healthiness of this squad and the competitiveness of this squad to be able to save about 10, 15 million, because that's what they were haggling over. But the fact that we paid it anyway makes the last 29 days a complete piss about and a waste of time. And it means we could have got him in on the 1st, and then we could have looked at bringing in a centre-back and working on a deal there that works in our favour and matching installments and stuff like that. So that's where I get annoyed by this deal.
So let me Pete, let me come to you then, because I'm aware you haven't spoken for a while. First of all, Alex, people saying, why don't you change your channel name to Mr. Box Office so you're easier to find? Worth thinking about, bro. Just don't have BO as your logo. Just promise me you won't have BO as your logo. Pete, with that in mind, I agree with David completely that for me, if we were going to pay that anyway, he should have been here the first week. But aside from that, it is possible, as other clubs have shown, right, to have more than one deal running concurrently. With that in mind, do you believe that in the background, Spurs are in talks with this centre-back that we desperately need? We desperately need one. Do you think there are some talks somewhere going on with Paratici for centre-backs?
No. There you go.
Brilliant.
Yeah, no. For me, this has been dragged out deliberately just because if they'd have knocked this one out early, then we'd have been like, right, where's the next one?
Right.
So what we'll do, we keep the fans just getting excited with the 15,000 tweets every day. The council last one, the Spurs put out about it. That's not a dig, but they retweet anyone who says anything about the deal. So it just keeps dragging on and on and on. I don't think we've actually paid the release clause, because I think the release clause, if they paid it, they had to pay it in full up front. So we weren't prepared to do that. So we had to then pay, I think, a bit more, which sounds bizarre because we're paying it in installments. So if you want release clauses all up front, or you pay a bit more and then we'll let you pay installments. But totally agree with Dave. It's just the same thing, isn't it? We drag it out hoping to save a couple of quid. We end up spending more money because instead of us, Levy thinks, oh, well, by the end of it, they'll be desperate to sell and I'll save a couple of quid. I mean, it always now seems to work the other way, where we're desperate to buy, so we're not paying more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a stupid. I mean, there's always a thing where Levy says, I always try and get the best deal for the club. And for me, that's always from a financial point of view. Sometimes getting the best deal for the club is just getting the fucking player in early so he can play games. But in terms of the Man City game, I think you just got to put him straight in. I mean, does Conte play him? It's not the first time we've bought a player that we think goes straight into the first 11 and Conte benches him for 4 weeks because he's not used to the tactics and all that sort of stuff. So it's
Well, Pete, do you not think the fact that he's used to playing the 3-4-3 under Amorim at Sporting sort of alleviates?
I hope so. But then it all comes back to the same thing: is this a Conte signing or is this a club signing? And we get. Do you know what I mean? If it's a club signing, then Conte has got history. Well, I ain't playing him because I didn't want him. Can you imagine that? Fucking that will proper kick off if he goes, yeah, I don't want him. He's on the bench. Yeah, out goes Jed Spence, comes off the bench and gets loaned out, and then Porro takes his place, getting splinters in his arse for the rest of the season. It wouldn't surprise me at Tottenham. Nothing does.
Yeah,
but,
I mean,
you got to throw him in, ain't you? You got to go right there. You go. I can't be putting up with them two anymore. I've got what I can out of them, which is not much, and I don't blame Conte for that. For them two, he's got in you go, boy, and there you go. The world, it's all yours.
So let me ask all of you here, whoever can go in whatever order you want. If the window was to shut with just Danjuma on loan and Pedro Porro in as a fully fledged player, would that be disappointing? I mean, I don't like really doing the whole out of 10 thing, but would we consider that disappointment, considering that we wouldn't have addressed creativity again, we wouldn't have addressed centre back again, and more importantly, if we would consider it negatively, what would Conte be feeling? Whoever wants to take that first, Mr. Boxer.
Conte knows what is going on already. He knows. Because, Savva, when you've had conversations with somebody, how many times about what you want, right? Because this guy's been in for how long now? How long has he been here for? Yeah?
It's coming up to about 18 months, isn't it, in May or wherever it is. So
18 months he's been chatting to Levy about what he wants. Yeah? Levy knows exactly what he's getting, by the way. Yeah? And if he doesn't know, he's got strategy there to tell you what he wants anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah? Who's not a don, like I said, because this guy is the most embarrassing thing at Tottenham right now for me. Yeah, and I don't care whether he's got in the 2 rejects last year. I don't really care. I don't care whether he got in Porro this year either. You know what I mean? Because as far as I'm concerned, he ain't no good. As far as I'm concerned, the quicker he's at this club, the better. As far as I'm concerned, yeah, right. And I'm not taking that back. I'll tell you that for a fact. You can have a go at me comments every single time because Mr. Box Office is back every single time. The main event. That's all I need to say. Like I said, yeah. But like I said, yeah. Right, when a guy has won championships and he still doesn't know, and still he's still talking and having conversations, it falls on deaf ears. You know what I mean? I've got a prediction. I'll put a spoiler out right now. We win the FA Cup. He's gone. He's gone. I'll put a prediction out right now. Yeah, I'm not betting on it, but I'll put a prediction right now. He's gonna win the FA Cup and then you go. Because
why would winning the FA Cup not make him want to stay?
No, because he's sitting there thinking that's the best achievement he can do with the team. Because he'll sit there and say, "Okay, that's cool, but I've got you top 4. I've got you an FA Cup. Yeah, well, I've got you an FA Cup. Yeah, what are you gonna do for me? Yeah, Levy, what are you gonna do for me?" Yeah, he's gonna sit there and say, "Oh, I'll give you this. I'll give you this for this for your system. I'll give you this for this. I'll give you this." Yeah, and he's sitting there thinking, "Well, I've just proved to you. I shouldn't even need to prove to you because my resume's already proved it to you already. Because you came to me twice, by the way. It's like going to a date twice in a row and getting rejected. Yeah, and you don't want to put a ring on it. Yeah, you know what I mean? It just don't make sense." Maybe that don't make sense, you know what I mean? But I'm not a Love Island sort of person. I'm not a Love Island sort of person. I'm a football guy. But my point is, you know what I mean? It's like, you can see it, bro. You can see it, and it's just this is why I'm broken, bro. I'm broken. I can't do it anymore, yeah? Well, I'll still go to the club, I'll still go to the games, yeah? But for me, this is the greatest opportunity we've got at the moment. We've got Liverpool who are collapsing at the moment, yeah? They're going to come back next season, yeah? We've got Chelsea that are coming back up again, yeah? Right? And we just look so dead on the pitch, bruv. Dead, yeah? And I've got to be happy on scraps like Danjuma, yeah? I've got to be happy at Danjuma at my club, yeah? Right, I've got to be happy because Porro's in the club right now, yeah. Because we've taken so long that it's like me time's ticking. It's ridiculous, bro. I'm sorry, the guy's gone, bro. He's had enough. I would be had enough as well.
I mean, look, there's a lot that Alex said there. I mean, we are gonna come to the whole Conte thing, but Kuva, bringing this kind of back on track, and we'll pick that up, Alex. But bring this back on track. If it just ends with what we've got at the moment and Porro, so Danjuma and Porro, what's going to be your overall thoughts, and what do you think Conte's overall thoughts will be on that type of window?
I'm not going to join in with the sort of grading out of 10 thing. I mean, I've seen Shawnee's in the comments. He'll know what that one's all about. The thus far bit. I think you got to look at what the priorities were and how far we've gone to address those priorities. Right. And you'd have to say right wing back, certainly one of them. But is it enough? Nah, of course not. It's if we'd signed the likes of Skriniar and we were only talking something like 20 million euros, something along those lines, and we can't stretch that far to get something that's desperately needed like that for the central defence as well. It feels a bit disappointing, doesn't it? It's a substandard window. A great window would have been if we got a Porro in, we got a Skriniar in, and then maybe we splashed out big on a Maddison, somebody like that. You know, just that little bit of emphasis on the forward attacking play as well as dealing with the weaker parts of the defence could have been a great window. It's an unrealistic one for us, though. We all know we're not going to spend like that.
But let me just play devil's advocate, Kuva. For me, I've said this all along. Skriniar, I know he's talked about a lot. I don't see why any Spurs fan thinks that Milan Skriniar would have any interest in joining Tottenham Hotspur.
Doesn't matter for me. The point is, we never see the words like bid rejected or Skriniar turns us down.
Skriniar, as a joint, there was a place supposed to be in deal in place for Skriniar with PSG in the summer. So that's why no other club has been able to go in for Skriniar, because they couldn't get a fee agreed with Inter Milan. They have agreed to a pre-contract in this window. So that's why no one.
Fair play. But it doesn't matter if it's Skriniar. There's others available.
I agree.
Yeah, sure.
It
needed a centre back, right, Kuva? That's the main thing. It needed
a really, really solid commanding sort of centre back. He could even be completely an underwhelming sort of name, but he's got the abilities that we need. Just that rock solid defender at the back, because I don't see that with Dyer. When we were talking earlier about Davinson Sanchez can't read the flight of the ball when it's in the air. Neither can Dyer. The amount of times he messes up with a ball in the air is unreal, especially for such a big lad. I think we're desperate for that. Just a quality reader of the game that knows where to be in the right position at the right time, and he can just organise the defence better. Because I don't agree that Dyer's this leader at this back. I don't, him pointing around occasionally.
He speaks 20 languages. I mean, that qualifies, right?
None of them football.
Yeah, gotcha.
Kuva, how long have you been saying that for, bro? How long have you been saying that for, bro? Yeah, I mean, Virgil van Dijk, by the way. We have to change his name to Virgil van Dijk, by the way, from last season. Honestly,
I know, mate.
Yo.
I mean,
by the way, anybody in the chat, just to say, I think it has to be Milan Skriniar or nothing. I think the whole point was getting a Skriniar type centre back. It's not that's got to be the only guy. I mean, look, Hincapi is a name that's being thrown around. We've heard it earlier in the window.
heard it loads of times now.
Romano said it. Carlo Sonicol on Sky Sports has said it. I've heard Ornstein say it. So lots of people have talked about Spurs and Hincapi, who I believe is, from what I've seen, more of a left-sided centre-half. If we were to end the window with Hincapi, Porro, and then you've got Danjuma, who's clearly the replacement for Brian Hill for the last 6 months of the season, would that go some way to appeasing the fan base?
Some of them will, yeah. I mean, for me, it's a bit of a glass half full. I mean, you only got to look down the road. Well, Arsenal potentially could finish the window. They've got Trossard in, boost their forward line. They then pull a defender out of nowhere, and it's looking like they may get Sessegnon, whatever he's called, from Brighton.
Yeah,
and they're doing all that while top of the league, clear top of the league. They're fixing the roof where the sun's shining. We're still trying to plug leaks, and it's always the same. It's just never enough. It's never enough, and we can't do it in January, but other teams do it. Look what Chelsea are doing, man. I don't expect us to spend that sort of money, but do you know what I mean? It's always the same thing. It's always, we've done okay, but we could have done a little bit more. And it's every single window is like that. Do you know what I mean? We need more. We need it now. That's where we are now. Levy created the problem. Levy solves the problem, but we don't. We just kick the can down the road for another year. I get the whole thing with Conte and everything else, but then if you buy proper players like that any manager would want, then that ain't going to be a problem when you transition to a new manager, rather than buying niche players.
Surely Hincapi and Porro, I forget Danjuma because he's on loan. Surely Hincapi and Porro would be a good start, no? If I'm just
good start, but it's glass half full, isn't it? You think where we are, what we need to get back to where we are. It's like as soon as we get them two in, and then we'll have another problem somewhere else in the summer because Kane might leave. Yeah, Kane, we might have to sell Kane then, so we've got to address that problem. We're always addressing another problem rather than that sort of going on the front foot. Do you know what I mean? Every other team's fixing the roof when the sun's shining. We're not.
Yeah, sure.
We're still trying to catch up from 5 years ago, and we never quite get there. Look how long. If Porro works out, it took 6 years and 4 different right backs to get one. Do you know what I mean? Everyone we thought would be worse than the last one. So
I understand.
me,
I suppose the point of view where I'm coming from, guys, is that look, we all call for
better than normal. It's better than normal. I'll give you that. It's better than normal.
We've all called for. We want to see
better
players. We want to see better players come in, right? Let's be fair. Hincapi's better than anything we've got at the back, other than Romero, right? Different position to Romero, but Hincapi, from what I've seen, certainly for Leverkusen and for his country, is much better than Davis, Dyer, Longley, Sanchez, Tanganga, Rodon, blah blah blah.
It's not a high bar, though, is it?
No, but Hincapi's a good player. He is a good player from what I've seen, right? Porro, from what I've seen, because like Mr. Box Office says, there is. We got to see them come over and play and how they fit into our system. But for me, I feel like as much as I am Enoch and Levy out, and as much as I dig at them, if we were to end that window with at least those 2 positions plugged, I feel like that's positive going into the summer, because I don't ever think any of us thought at the beginning of this window we were going to plug right wing back, plug centre back, plus a James Maddison type. We'd love it. But I don't think any of us did. Anyone truly believe that was doable, possible?
No, if we get the James Maddison type, then that's different. But I don't class Danjuma as that. But we're not to get the 2 to get Porro and Hincapi. I think it's a good start. But as I said, it's always we've done that before where we've got 2 and then it's never enough, and then we seem to lurch backwards again by the next window.
I think the problem is, Savva, is that I'm not too. I don't really know that much about Hincapi, yeah, and I don't really know that much about Porro, yeah. I would like to be optimistic, but I know with the system that Conte plays that I'm not all for this football at the moment, yeah. I respect him, but I know what I'm getting. You know what I mean? I'm like Kuva, for instance. You want good football. You know what I mean? I like good football as well, And from what I've seen when I've been at the stadium, I haven't seen that, Yeah. So they will have an effect, yeah. But I think for me, that's winding me up at the moment. When you look at the points tally, look at the league at the moment, I know that we're far away from Arsenal at the moment, yeah. You bring in these signings like last season, because the effect that Kulu and Bentacle had, whether what I've said before about them, they have been very good for us. If we were near the top, you'd be talking about having results of trying to compete with the top 4. You know what I mean? And trying to probably try and in results to try and win titles or something like that. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it could have happened, but it's just showing that a little bit more ambition and creativity. Like for instance, Chelsea, for instance, they're paying these installments in the players that they're buying. So not buying them outright, paying it all straight away. They're paying it in installments after 7 years. It's thinking about being creative.
Well, we are though, Alex. We're bringing in a lot of loans with options to buy or obligations to buy.
Yeah, but it's taking too long, though, David. It's taking way too long, David. It's taking way too long.
But you can't praise Chelsea for being ingenuitive and working our way around it, and then ridicule Spurs in the same breath when we are working our way around it.
We're working our way around it, but it's taking too long. And the quality, it's taken too long to make these decisions. Yeah,
I don't dispute that. But you can't praise Chelsea for one thing.
Somewhere along the line, I think they could have been more creative, with the things that they've got. I know Chelsea got money, but they've been creative in ways to try and keep away from FFP, and they're getting good players for it. You know what I mean? The Modric deal.
I'll look at simple little signings. Some other teams have done this season. Alex Moreno at Aston Villa, cracking little left back. He's been a really top left back in Spain for years now. Yeah. Only 15 million. It's the sort of signing we could have made, would have definitely improved our squad. Instead, we look at like the one sort of marquee signing, and it's like nothing else gets done in the meantime. Maybe a stopgap loan signing that may or may not do well. It's like forward plan to get to a sub level. I think this is what Conte was on about, getting the foundations in place. I think if he had players like even at Moreno's level, if he had like 12, 14 of them across the pitch, he can do something with that.
But Kuva, don't you feel that we've got to look? You guys know my thoughts on ENIC and Levy. I think you all very well know my thoughts on this. But from my point of view, I do feel that we're going to get to the point at some stage where he can't win or Paratici can't win, whatever they try and do. For me, all window, I've seen so many fans saying they want Hincapi, for example. Then you get people in the chat saying, "What is it with this Hincapi? He's overhyped." Right? So who is it that our fans want to see come in? Because I'm seeing Hincapi's overhyped. People don't want Pau Torres. Skriniar, we know we can't get. Joachim Anderson, people don't want. He's not that great. Guehi, he's overhyped. Who is it that our fans want to see at centre half? I'm confused.
I want to add to that just quickly before Kuva answers, just to add to your question. Like we've seen the Kim Min-jae team come out about Jose Mourinho, right? Yesterday. Now everyone's using that as a tool to beat the club with. Fair enough, I understand it. But when we were linked with him at the time, there were so many people calling it a cheap ENIC Levy signing. So we also have to get that together as a fan base. Like, what do we accept? Because we know we can't go and spend 80, 90, 100 million on one player every single window. So the other way around that is by bringing in and identifying talents nice and early. Like when we were linked with Kavicha, again, because people didn't really know too much about him, labeled as an ENIC Levy signing, but now everyone's calling for him. So it's like we've got to, like, I agree with you. What do we want at this football club? What do we want?
That's my only thing. Look, guys, I'm not sitting there and sticking up for them at all. But as a fan, what I can't do is I can't sit here and say, I want to see a plan. I want to see a wing back. I want to see a centre back. Then if you brought Hincapi in, who's of that age where he's good, but still room to grow. Yeah. Plus a Doji who's good, but room to grow. Porro's 23. You've got some experience there. Romero, we've got on the right-hand side. I can then start to see, okay, there's something there. But what else are we expecting in this window, guys, to satisfy the fan base? What would it take? Is it like Kuva? Is it like what you said? Is it a Maddison? Is it that the fans want to see a name? Do they want to just see a name over? Yeah, of course. Right. Is that okay?
Yeah, definitely. Of course, all fans want to see a big name. Who wouldn't? Oh. If we come out like the last day of the window and this miraculous signing and Lionel Messi walks through the door, we'd be chizzing all over the place. It's like what a great name, what a great signing that would be. I think it's kind of leveling off the expectations a little bit with a lot of it. The trouble is we got such an imbalanced team. When you go for the peaks of the likes of Harry Kane, and then you got the likes of Sessegnon playing in the same team, it's such a drop off from one to the other. Yeah, that's what I mentioned in particular Moreno, because I was thinking about that the other day. Just a £15 million signing. It's not that far a drop off from Kane to Moreno as it is to Sessegnon. At least Moreno's a capable footballer that can play out from the back, comfortable on the ball. We don't have that. We have peaks and troughs, and the troughs are really bad in this team. If we just eradicate that real dross at the back, get into just good quality footballers. They do not have to be the world's greatest. They just have to be at a good level. So a very, very good manager like Conte can do something with them. I don't see him ever going to be able to do anything with Sessegnon or Davinson Sanchez. Eric Dyer's not going to get any better. Ben Davies, he's probably got the most you could possibly get out of Ben Davies now. Mm-hmm. He looks at sort of solid but non-inspiring centre-back who's got the fault of he's chronically slow. Nothing he can do about that. Mm-hmm. So we do need these players in, and expecting us to go for, constantly Bastonis and things like that, I think it's unrealistic. We know of course it's unrealistic. We know our chairman is not going to spend in that kind of way. It's always been the set plan, rigid reins on the transfer spending and wage structure. But there is a level below that we could have consistently been hitting, and we've not been doing that either. It's either it's boom or bust on every signing. Throw massive money at Ndombele, then back it up with cheap or loan signings in other positions that needed strengthening as well. We just need that level of consistency to work from. This is why I always go back to Conte talking about that 12 to 14 players just to have a foundation. If we get that, we're not talking about 12 to 14 world-class players. We're talking about 12 to 14 good players, just good players, just enough to get us playing a consistent level of football and doing the things that Conte wants for his system. If we got that, we could really get somewhere. Then you go starting to add the real top-end quality to it.
But the
We
thing
just
is,
don't
Kuva,
do that way.
well, I've asked the question. I'll ask it again for anyone that hasn't answered. Put in the chat, what centre backs do you want to see? Because what I see it from the sublime to the ridiculous. So I see lots of people going, well, Undercar, which makes sense, right? 6 months left on his contract, probably cost you 15 million, left-sided, good age, Champions League experience. Why not? Then I see people going, I want Vardial. And you know, when you think, what we can't do is say, if we don't buy Vardial, then the owners have let us down. Vardial's not going to want to join Tottenham Hotspur. I think we need to accept that, don't we, Alex? As a club, do we need to, yes, we can dream, but Vardial's one of the most wanted centre-backs in world football. Can you see in any way, shape or form he'd want to join Tottenham Hotspur, Alex?
No, but you can be ambitious and go for it, though, I would say, because the thing is, though, when you've got Antonio Conte, you've got to really look ambitiously, aren't you, really? Unfortunately, with the man that you've got to do that. That's the thing. Listen, I'll be honest with you. I'm not that sort of guy that knows all these players around the world. I don't know. So, as I said, I have to see the player and see how it goes in the, over a set amount of games, and then, see them how they are next season. You know what I mean? What we achieve with that player as well, and how they affect the team. So, but because I've been burnt so much with Tottenham so far, and, I don't see a plan, and I don't know how this is going to work out, second part of the season and how it moves on from there. I'm not too sure. I can't really base my decision on what we bought in already. You know what I mean? Because we've made such a hoo-ha about this whole thing already that I don't know, and I can't really answer you, Savva, about what sort of centre back what I'll be happy with at the moment, because until I've seen it over a number of games how it works out, you don't know, because you've seen how it's been. This season's been up and down. Conte's been up and down. I understand there's a personal side to things. What's happened with him personally. I get it. But you can read between the lines what's going on in the football, and that's it. And with also the football side as well, that's not been great as well. I'm not so great with it at the moment. It's like, for instance, in the chat, I've got Spurs, the talk show at the moment, who... Big up Sean, yeah. I love him on the show because I could banter him out the building. I'll tell you that for a fact, yeah. Right. But he's telling me that, what am I talking about? I'm talking nonsense. Well, for me, I'm talking more sense than anybody as far as I'm concerned, because I'm looking at it right now. I've seen this before. I feel like this is like the whole Jose thing again. Yeah, even though Jose didn't get back for the plays he needed as well, and what the thing was with Poch as well. I just feel like I just got that feeling, that it's just
okay. Let me put this another way. Then let me bring you in, Pete, on this. Right, the term is he a Conte player? He's banded around massively now, more so than any other manager I can ever remember us having. Before, I seem to remember it used to be: is this a good signing? Is it not? Now it's not. Is it a good signing? It's a Conte signing, which I think is a false. I think it's a false dawn, because what it's allowing people to do is any signing that works out it's a Conte signing. Any signing that doesn't work out, the easy go-to is, well, he didn't want them, right? Now, my point with this, Pete, is the names I'm hearing that Conte wanted in the summer were players like Bonucci, players like Bastoni. Now, whilst I'm sure everyone on this panel and all 500 people in the chat would go, yeah, I'd love Bonucci and Bastoni in our back three alongside Romero. Equally, I think we have to look at it and go, do Bonucci and Bastoni have any reality in coming to Tottenham Hotspur, right? So for me, is it a Conte signing? For me, I feel like this is a kind of a juxtaposition for fans. Do you know what I mean? First of all, no manager's going to get every player they want, Pete. But second of all, if he's looking to shop in that top shelf, then doesn't that come back to the whole, we're not the right club for him?
Yeah, I mean, the whole Conte side, I think that comes more when you're buying sort of speculative players.
Spence.
Yeah, stuff like players like that, and
right.
Some of the others we've done. For me, if you're buying good players, really good players, not necessarily top class players. I agree, we're not going to shop at that top drawer, unfortunately. But if you're buying really good players, then there'll always be a Conte player, a Poch player, Mourinho player, any other player, because they're good players. They're getting they're good players to get in the team. It's that simple. They don't have to be specific. And a manager can then put them in his system how he wants, and maybe say, I want you to do this and want you to do that. But I don't think, unless you're buying the player that he's had before, you don't really, no player turns up pre-packaged suiting another manager unless they've played unless you bought from the exact last club you just took them from. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
sure.
I agree. I think that's just it's a bit of a myth, really. I think if you're buying, as Kuva's always said, if you buy good players, they'll fit in the team. It's that simple. Just buy good players. You ain't got to worry about it, because any manager can make a team out of good players. It's a Conte players when you're buying cheap, and he might have certain attributes that Conte wants, but then is missing stuff that most other managers might want.
Pete, sorry, go on, David. Go on.
Yeah, I just want to answer the question from before, the one that you asked Mr. Sideshow up there that he failed to answer. For me, when you're talking about the likes of Gvardiol and stuff like that, surely the solution and the answer is bringing them in before they end up at clubs like Leipzig, where they're going to end up selling them on for massive money. Surely that's what we should be doing, is identifying them early and getting them in, rather than having to go to a Leipzig, who is a talent pool on consistently developing players, and selling them on for big money. Surely then that's the answer. Get in there before any of these clubs do.
Just quickly, John Ellishaw, I don't think anyone's saying we'll take anyone. I don't think that's what we're saying. If that's aimed at the panel, for me, I'm saying that we've got to be realistic, and I do completely agree with David on this. There are players, for example, Hincapi for me falls into that bracket you just mentioned, David. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying Hincapi's going to be the best centre back the world's ever seen. We don't know, but getting him when he's 20, rather than wait until a player. Look, Vardiol's a special case, because I think Vardiol is special. He is a top centre half and only 20. And I get what people are saying. Let's be ambitious and at least try. Cool. But let's be really, really honest, right? If Tottenham Hotspur want to whack £95 million down on Vardiol, I think they know, Conte knows, Paratici will know, we all know the answer is going to be no. Yeah, we can want to see that signing, but for me, I think there's smarter ways to build a team. Yeah? Chelsea, cool. Crack on, Chelsea. You've got bundles of cash. You can buy whoever you want. Spurs, for me, should be looking, who can we get at a bargain at 25, 30 million at centre-back? Yeah? Then complement it with a James Maddison type player if we can. But I just feel that we do need to be balanced about this. I've kind of realised over the years, I've gone very much, I want to see the best players in the world. Yeah. Well, I don't support Man City, right? I don't support Chelsea. I support Tottenham. So I feel this needs to be done cleverly. And David, for me, and I want to evolve the conversation into this, and Kuva, I'll come to you and David here with this. For me, this is why I always say, this is why I don't think Conte is the fit for our club. Because I just don't think we can give him the Bastonis, the Vardiols, the Barellas, that I just don't think that we can. And like you guys, I think he'll walk. But what's our general feeling on this now, even if we have a good window?
Look, I think with Antonio Conte, I think if you want to go down the route of identifying these players like we were talking about before they get to the likes of a Leipzig and stuff like that, maybe Conte isn't your man. But look, we brought Conte in to appease the fans, to take the pressure off the board. But the realization of it is that we've been waiting. Like, Antonio Conte came in here in a period where we were never going to be able to deliver him the players that you're talking about that he expects at Tottenham Hotspur. Because we had a whole squad to make up. When he came here, there was only a few players out of that original squad that you would have kept. So there was too much business to do. So that means the money had to be spread out into numerous of other positions. So you can never look at one position and go, right, 60 million, lay down a transfer budget on it, bring it in, let him hit the ground running, because you're still looking around at the rest of the team. You're like, what the fuck was the point in that? Because everyone else around him is shit, So, like, in that regard, Conte was never going to work in the first place in that regard. But, he's here, and I don't see the problem with striving to get them sort of players in underneath the guy. I really don't. I think once you fill out this squad, you're then in a position to be able to do that. Like I've said this a number of times. I think this summer, you should be in a position to be able to go out and lay down 70, 80 million on a centre back, another 40 million on a goalkeeper if that's what's needed, because you don't have as many positions to fill.
Yeah, Dave, do you know what? I think that's a great point. Just quickly before I come to you, Kuva, I think that's a great point. Other clubs he's gone to, it might have just needed 2 or 3 top 70, 80 million pound players. You can go, right, title challenge. At Spurs, as you said, when he joined, you needed a left wing back, a right wing back, 2 centre halves, 2 centre mids, a right wing forward, another two or three attackers. And that for me is why I always think we're going to be close but far away, Kuva. In terms, and what I mean by that is, even if we went and spent 78 million on a top centre back this summer, I don't know who that would be, but even if we did that, even if we went and bought Maddison as well and a few other players, Newcastle were spending, Arsenal were spending, City, Liverpool, everyone's going to spend money. So it feels like we're always going to be playing catch up, doesn't it? Or does it? For me, it does.
Yeah, I think so. It's just the nature of how we've done transfers, isn't it? It's been so bad. When we go out in the summer, like we had this summer, just gone past, that's a lot of players coming in. How many have really improved the first team? That's what you're going to ask. That's what I'd call. When Sean and I had went a little bit too far arguing on Friday night on another show, but disgraced ourselves to an extent. But the conversation was all based on
that was all good. That was all good. You brought it back, and you
yeah. It's still nonetheless. Moving on. The conversation at least got to the point of what really is backing the manager, and for me, it's looking at those players. Perhaps we shouldn't be talking about what's backing the manager. We should be talking about what's a good signing. And it is bringing in a quality player to upgrade the position where you're the weakest in. If you keep doing that consistently, you could just do 3 signings per window. You'd be improving the team vastly every time. We don't do that. We buy players for positions we've already got world-class cover in. The likes of Brian Hill. How much do we spend on Brian Hill? I know David likes Brian Hill and everything. He's got some talent, but kill Messi if you like. But we got Heung-min Son there. I mean, why is that a priority over getting a wing back who's absolutely shit and can't play football, according to most people? Why do we sign the likes of Matt Doherty? Did anybody really?
Now, sorry, Kuva. Why was he a priority? Were you talking about Danjuma?
Danjuma compared to other players that we need. When we're talking about such a wobbly defence, goalkeeper out of form, can't play out from the back, terrible playing out from the back just generally. Why isn't that a priority? Especially when you got an Italian manager who the first thing, what's an Italian manager going to want? Solid back players at the back and a solid goalkeeper. That you have that's like fundamentals there. Yeah. We don't do that. It's strengthening other positions that really, was it a priority? No. Spend a lot of money on it as well. And then we're like looking for scraps and loan deals to cover the rest of it. So there we go. Big up, Jacob. Yeah, United Spurs of America on Friday. Quite an explosive little happening there, but it all smoothed out nicely. Anyway, right. So we keep spending big on things that aren't really necessities for the club, and then we leave or just get loan signings on for areas that pitch desperately needed an upgrade. And we're all talking about the defence now. I can't think of anybody among the Spurs crowd that isn't talking about we need players at the back at the moment.
But they weren't in the summer, though, Kuva.
A lot of us were.
Some were, David.
No,
I suppose that could be down to fan mentality. You want to see the big name club.
People that when I was talking about was telling me, Dave, shut up, Dyer's good enough, Davies improved. Some people even went as far as to tell me that Sanchez is good enough. It's kind of like there was a lot of people this summer, and I got a lot of blowback on it, that didn't believe defence was priority. I told everyone in the summer, you're going to be the same people coming back to me crying this January about centre-backs. Where are we? Everyone's sitting here moaning about centre-backs.
In a way, though, David, isn't it irrelevant? It's what Conte knows he needs, and it's what Paratici should know they need, and it's what Levy should be providing. It shouldn't come down to the fans having to tell the club what they think, what's needed. They should be doing it.
Just quickly, guys, just before we go on to this, I want to talk about Conte and his contract, etc. Just before we do, guys and girls, thank you for everyone in the chat. There's 471 of you in the chat. please, please, please smash that like button. Only a third of you have smashed the like button so far. Chasing down 3,500 subscribers in record time. By record time, I mean compared to the time I set myself. So it's my record. It's not even. Ignore me. 3,500 is what I'm chasing down. So please subscribe. Subscribe to the Irish Hotspur as well. Subscribe to Alex THFC. Subscribe to the Free Spurs Boys Kuva and the Can as well. Guys and girls, I want to get into this, right? It's the biggest topic of conversation. And a lot of now with what is being talked about in all the comments I'm seeing is we talk as fans as to buying in, oh, let's get a Skriniar, let's get this player, let's get that player. But we also don't know who the manager's going to be next year. Now, there's obviously, I know if we've talked about this, there's obviously a lot of schools of thought, right? A, just bring in good players. We just bring in good players, they can play anywhere, blah, 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 blah. Then there's the school of thought, well, no, hang on. Some players are good centre-backs in a 2, but not in a 3. Some are good in a 3, but not in a 2. So can you then go and buy a specialist player for that area? How much do we think this is actually hampering the club? Rather than we think it's a good thing that he's calling out the board and it's great that he's having these digs, how much of this is affecting the club that we don't know who the manager's going to be next year? Pete, let me come to you.
It's obvious. Well, it's hard to judge at the moment because we're naturally poor and especially in January transfer window anyway, so we can't use that as as a guide to how it is. But you'd like, as being a sensible person, you like to think, hang on a minute, how can we make a plan when the main component of that plan is we don't know. We don't know if he's going to be around or not. So how do we proceed? And this all goes back to the whole point of why are we stringing this out? Why wasn't this dealt with already? No, everyone with half a brain cell knew where this was going to go. If we don't have the conversation, we don't have the conversation. Or maybe we have, and we're not saying nothing, and we're just going to string it out until we amicably part ways. But for me, that's just a waste of time. I'll be honest, I'm bored. I'm just so bored of it all. I mean, I'm grateful for Conte for his outburst and what he said about the board and highlighting a few truths, to be fair. That's the best thing he's done. But let's be honest, when you do your match prep now, I mean, before you'd put some beers in the fridge, you get all excited, maybe get some mates round, even maybe putting a pizza on, or order a takeaway or something, get ready for the game. Now, you probably brush your teeth and put your pajamas on because you know you're not going to sleep.
Yeah.
It's you know what I mean? So that's your match prep now, you know what I mean? So I'm just so bored of the whole thing now. It's just like ugh. It will happen again. We'll have, after the window, this will all be about Conte again. Now it's about the window, and then the first couple of bad results we get, which will no doubt be start on against City, Toys will be out the pram again. He will start saying, well, another window wasn't back, and all the rest of it. And fair play for him for saying it. Hopefully he keeps saying it. But in terms of the whole drama, it's just fucking boring, isn't it? The football's boring, drama's boring. No one at the club has took leadership on it and gone, right, I'm going to nip this in the bud now and I'm going to make a stand and then this is what we're going to do. Yeah, and then you hang your hat on, you sort of hang your coat on that decision. We're just like lumbering on until it gets to a point where it just blows up anyway, and then we got to deal with it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Mr. Box Office, where did you hear all that? Were you?
No, but just to make some things clear, David, I don't talk waffle, bro. It's Mr. Box Office, you know what I mean? The professor of Mr. Box Office, you know what I mean? And if you don't know, get to know, you know what I mean? Because as I said, you know, I talk the truth every single time, and I talk the truth about this team every single time as well, because they're my bang average team, you know what I mean? Because as I said, this guy's gone, he's finished. I absolutely agree with what Pete is saying. Yeah, I mean, I didn't hear everything that he said, but I agree what he said about what the last bit he said, where he said basically, you know, I'm bored of it. I don't like the football. It's boring. Like, I respect Conte. This is no disrespect to Conte. I respect Conte. Yeah, but the point is, and you said it already, Savva, he's not the club. He's not the man for us. You know, if you're not going to do what he wants. And yes, it is speculative what he wants. We don't know what he wants, but the club don't talk up to us, so we don't know. So we have to read between the lines, don't we? You know what I mean? Like we have to do what reading the newspapers, listen to ITKs and hear what they're saying as well. Which for me, I don't listen to anymore. I'm bored of it. You know what I mean? It's like me listening to too many people, and it just goes in one ear and out the other. You know what I mean? It's not doing anything with my life. You know what I mean? All I want to hear is what I'm seeing at Brighton at the moment. Yeah, what I'm seeing at Arsenal at the moment, top of the table. I want to see a trophy. You know what I mean? I need to see something that's tangible, you know? Because at the moment, all I'm hearing is just moaning, groaning, nothing's happening. You know what I mean? And we've got 2 games a week coming up soon, and that's when we start collapsing. You know what I mean? So for me, I'm bored of it, man. And as far as I'm concerned, I think it's a matter of when rather than if. You know what I mean? When he's going to go.
Kuva, I'm going to come to you just before we do.
Sorry, just 1 second, mate. I'll just come.
No worries. No worries. I mean, SOF, just quickly, I think the difference that you're talking about here, you said Klopp complains about lack of spending. The media doesn't highlight it. Conte says anything and it's all negative. I think the difference is one of them hasn't signed a new contract at his club. I think that's the be-all and end-all for me is we're about to be in February. No one knows if Antonio Conte is manager next year. As far as I'm aware, Klopp's contract doesn't run out in the summer. So Klopp has got that in the bank. He's won things. Everyone knows Liverpool bounced back. The whole point at Tottenham Hotspur is we've never spent, and I think most of the media probably feel the same thing the fans do, that we kind of know where this is heading. Kuva, where are you with all this now? Because we're now getting so dangerously close to a decision needs to be made, right? We're what, 4 months away from this?
Yeah. We've had this conversation so many times, haven't we, over the months? That's how ridiculous it is. We're talking for this long about something that should have been sorted out a long time ago. The leadership always comes from the very top. If you want a manager and lead your club, then you've got to get him signed up to a contract. If he's stalling because he doesn't think you're going to provide him with the things, you tell him you're going to provide him with the things. You show him, you put it in the contract. Slap that on the table and set the tone. This is where we're going. These are the objectives. Slam that on the table. If he doesn't want to go for it, out the door he goes. Doesn't matter how big his name is. Get in somebody that will go for what your view is, what your vision is for the club. If we're not aiming for the top, getting a top manager doesn't mean anything, does it? We might as well just get a manager that fits that profile of coasting along in 6th or 7th, not winning anything. But fine, that's what they're going to do. But all we seem to do is just get these top managers in, like Mourinho, Conte, it's like the pretense that we're going to try and do something. The reality is we're not. I think most fans have woken up to that now.
Well, quick, answer this for me. I mean, I think this is a very obvious answer, but what do you make of this? Why would Spurs give Conte a 5-year deal at 15 million a year? Pep signs 1-year deals. For me, this is obvious, but what do you make of this?
Well, why would we need to anyway? Pep knows what he's getting, what he wants. That's it. At the end of the day,
right.
He's been provided with shitloads of money. He's already got a club that plays the style of football he wants, and he's now got an academy producing players that play that style of football and doing very well with it. Him going anywhere else in the world is a step down now. He doesn't need a new contract. 1 year is fine for him. The club knows what they got with Pep as well. He's built that current Man City team. Perhaps they're struggling a little bit with the integration of Haaland at the moment and finding their way a little bit currently. But they will be back to what they do best very soon. We know that. We absolutely know that. And he's also a big enough manager that if he feels he needs to drop Haaland and bring in Alvarez to get that more sort of stylish, fluid football going, he'll do it. He won't have any problem with that. He's the man. So 1 year contracts, no problem. He can go anywhere he wants in the world. Any club would want Pep in charge.
Savva.
So,
you go on.
No, sorry, I pretty much finished that.
I think Tottenham need to get back to where they know who they are. I don't know who they are at the moment. It's far and away from that club that were in the 1960, 1974, Keith Birkinshaw and Bill Nicholson. You know what I mean? But they need to find out who they are, because I don't think they know who they are. I think we can talk about the ownership all day long. It's not going to change, isn't it? I'm not going to go on about that. But the point is, we don't know who we are, what sort of club we want to be. Do you want to be a Brighton, or do we want to be a Manchester United, Arsenal, or a Chelsea or Manchester City? We're trying to do both, and it isn't working, basically.
I think we're
And we
trying
can
to
go-
do that, Alex. I think we're trying to pretend. That's the problem. We're pretending.
Well, that's the point, and that's why, rather than at the moment, I'm coming with answers at the moment that I don't know what's going on at the moment, because I'm just speculating at the moment still. You know what I mean? Whether I think it's truth, which I think it's truth because I can read between the lines as far as I'm concerned. I've been a supporter so long and seen so much disappointments. You can read between the lines so easily. You know what I mean?
Do you
You're
know what,
you're not
Alex?
suckered anymore. You know what I mean?
I agree with you, but from a different aspect. I massively agree with you that I think Spurs don't have an identity, and I don't feel like we've had an identity for many, many years. This has always been my worry about Conte being at the football club. It's never been about his ability as a football manager at a top club. It's never been that. It's been his longevity at any club he goes to versus, is this the guy you build for? Like, do you want to build for this style? Then in 2 years, he wins a cup and goes. And all of a sudden, we're like, okay, the next manager that comes in, this is the group of players we've got. Now, listen, I don't know. I'm not saying there's a right or wrong answer here, but David, what do you make of this in terms of, you know, when you look at Brighton on a lesser scale, everyone knows what they're going to do. I mean, look at players like Matoma. They just get them, they settle in. You can see they've not been monitoring. They've been scouting them hard for years. Bang, in the team. City to that level. At Spurs, like Alex says, you look at what are we? We don't have a style. The club don't have an ethos. There's nothing coming from the youth team. So where does this puzzle kind of come together, or does it?
Look, it's hard to have a style when, you know, ultimately after Pochettino, we got rid of the best players that we had. Kept maybe Kane, Son and Hugo, but the rest of the team, you know, were gone. We ended up sacking Pochettino, and then all of Steve Hitchens' money, wasted 350 on absolute dross that were never good enough to replace players that we were losing, the likes of a Wanyama, a Dembele, a Rose, a Walker, a Toby, a Jan. None of the players we brought in were good enough, so you're never going to have that style. Under Pochettino, he had a style of play, but I'd argue, look, I'm not getting into a Conte in, Conte out debate. Everyone is entitled to see how they feel it. But what I will say is, if Conte goes and Poch comes back, is things really going to be much better? We've got to understand that this football club, Conte is trying to play out from the back. Poch will also look to play out from the back. We don't have the players to play out from the back on a consistent basis. And this is the big problem. In order for, even if you want Conte gone, you have to realize that even if the next manager comes in and you're calling for a new manager, you've got to also put the pressure on for them guys to be backed across the back line. Otherwise, nothing is going to change. Absolutely nothing. You know, and we've been floating around in obscurity for 3 to 4 years now, hiring and firing managers every 16 to 18 months. How do you expect to have a style or a philosophy or anything like that? You know, if you want what like a City or a Liverpool have, a philosophy or style, or even what we had under Poch, it comes with longevity. It comes with bringing in players, you know, and it's not even about backing a manager. It's actually just identifying your weaknesses in a squad and bringing in a player that you know, whether you play a back four or back five, they're good enough to be able to adjust systems. You look at the players at Brighton. They played one way under Potter with a back five at times, but then you bring in this new guy, he plays a back four, but they're still playing an attractive brand of football. Because they're identifying players that are good enough. Because look, with systems and tactics, there's only minor changes in some of them. They're not huge changes. If you're good enough, you can get to grasp with tactics. That's why the likes of players that you've seen had long careers, great careers, like even a Lampard or a Jarrett. They played in many different systems, being asked to do many things, but they always stand out because the quality is there. But why don't we consistently bring in the quality to this club? Well, I would argue, how big is our scouting network? You look at Brighton, they end up signing Matoma, who, by the way, today's goal was absolutely fantastic.
That was a brilliant goal.
But, you know, why are they getting these players? How many scouts do we have around Europe or around Africa, around Asia, around America that are out there identifying young players, bringing them in here on trials, getting them into our youth system and building them up? I don't think we do. I looked at the scouting department today, and most of the scouts are English based. How many eyes? Like I know, for instance, right? I was in the academy set up over here in Ireland when I was younger. Not once did I hear a Spurs representative going to any youngster at competitions going, "We like the look of you. Get over there for a 2-week trial." But what you do have is a lot of Liverpool, a lot of Man United, Everton, and that's what we need to do in order to help this club going forward is completely building up that scouting network and getting into the depths of Europe, into the far leagues, and hopefully get some of these players in here younger so that you can build them and mold them into your way, into your style, into your philosophy, which then makes the transition from the youth squad into the senior squad so much more easy. You look at Man City, how are they able to bring Foden, Rico Lewis, and people like that through? Because they've been in the City Academy for years. They know exactly what's asking them, and the transition is easy to make that gap, which means then they can save money on them areas and go and buy in other areas. So there's so much that's wrong at this club since the Champions League final whistle blew that we completely neglected, and that's why we've been in the rut we've been in over the last 3-4 years. And in order to sort it out, it's going to take sticking with a director of football, sticking with a manager, through the shit periods, just like Arsenal done with Mikel Arteta. Let's not forget, their board was under so much pressure to sack him, but they didn't. What they've done is they cleared all the players he didn't want out, and they had no problem doing it to the likes of Aubameyang, a Lacazette, people like that. Get them out and just bring in players that they believe.
You know the difference, David, for me? I agree with everything you said there. I agree with. Not one bit I don't. The difference for me, though, between Arsenal doing it and Spurs doing it is Arsenal were doing it and backing a manager that didn't have any prior elsewhere. This was not a manager that could command. This wasn't a manager that threw his toys out the pram in press conferences. This wasn't a manager that would pull the board apart. Now, I'm not saying all of that is bad that Conte does that, but they were doing it with a manager where there wasn't expectation. Spurs are doing it with a manager that's never done that anywhere before. So when people think I hate Conte, I don't. I don't. I just don't feel like that kind of plug in and play kind of method works with this guy. So I agree.
It works if you have 15, 16 players and you're bringing in, you're only looking for 2 or 3 players, to really implement his system. But when you brought him in at the period we did, of course you were always going to have this period because the squad just wasn't there. It just was not there.
The problem is, though, he wants to win now. That's the problem. That's the problem with him at the moment. And I actually agree with what you're saying, David. Yeah, but the point is, you should think a top 6 side, because we're saying that we are a top 6 side. By the way, top 6 side should know this already. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's embarrassing that we're not doing this already. You know what I mean? My less of optimism at the moment is because I'm getting battered by Leicester fans, battered by Manchester United fans, battered by Chelsea fans, battered by Arsenal fans now. Yeah, right. And I've got to listen to them because we don't look forward. You know what I mean? And the thing is that the communication's been shocking so much that we, why have we not got these scouting networks? Why are Brighton doing better than us? And Brighton have not been in the Premier League for so long, though, bro. You know what I mean? It's embarrassing.
I don't want to sit here and say exactly we don't have them scouting networks, because I don't know what people they have in the other countries may be looking at things. But when you look at our underage teams, we don't have too many players from across the planet. A lot of them are English-based players. Even look at some of the ones we signed. That guy from Southend, the guy Will Lancashire from Sheffield United. There's a lot of English-based players. You go and look at a Man City Academy, a United Academy, a Chelsea Academy. They've got players in from all over the world. We just don't.
I think it's worth noting as well. It's worth noting as well when you look at when you do when you implement the philosophy you just said, David, like at Brighton, for example, when you're just buying in good players for the club, regardless of the manager, what you see is how they have managed to lose Dan Burn, Ben White, Cucurella, Basuma, Trossard, Maupay. Like, because if Caicedo goes, they keep doing it. And yet they're still in the top half of the table on that tiny little budget without goal scorers. It's not like with Spurs, you say, we're up there, let's be really honest, because of Harry Kane, right? These guys do it year in, year out, right? and I'm not saying we should be Brighton. I would like to do a version of what Brighton are doing, but at the next level up, right? Can you imagine Spurs? Or actually, you don't even need to imagine it. Look what happened when we lost Walker, Rose, Vertonghen, Alderweireld. We fell off. We went from there to there. Brighton just stay there. Brighton stay there, or even go up a bit.
But Savva, they've also got this succession plan in their academy. And I can only say this from an Irish point of view, from what I know. But they had Aaron Connolly, right? Remember the guy that scored a couple of goals against us when they beat us 3-0?
Yeah.
When we had Toby and Jan. Well, he fell off a cliff. It didn't work out. He got too big for his boot, shipped on. But then the next Irish guy comes through, Ferguson. Look at him now. He's scoring goals. He's only 17. But below that, they've got another guy called Andrew Moran, who, again, is another succession plan going forward. And that's only coming out of Ireland. So they've got players to replace that, but then they've also got in the youth network, but then they've also got good scouts all over the world looking to bring in the next player to walk straight into their first team once they've sold on a player that they can no longer keep hold of because their ambitions have changed. We don't have that Hotspur.
Yeah, I'll go as far as to say about the manager as well. The manager as well, because look at it. Potter goes. Look at Desabi's in. You know what I mean? And look what's going on. Secession plan straight away. That's why I said in my video, if you don't know, get to know, because he said, it's THFC again. You know what I mean? Giving the exclusive again. You know what I mean? I said, I want Pochettino. For three reasons. We're in the mud, so we might as well go back to him anyway. We need good football. That's another reason as well. And 3, right? While he's getting back to the good football, getting rid of all the dead wood, by the way, and getting rid of the whole team and scrapping that completely, right? You research on managers like Pochettino. You like a Pochettino, like a Rodgers, or whatever you need to get, yeah? And you keep bringing that in and start, refreshing, building this squad again. You know what I mean? But also looking at managers like Pochettino, because when he moves on, you get in another manager like Pochettino. You know what I mean? Like what Brighton are doing, you know what I mean? I'm not saying Pochettino is the answer. No, but I'm saying that's the whole point. But, you know what I mean?
Pete, I want to bring you in here, Pete. This is the thing for me, and I said to Kuva the other day, I saw a really good debate on the Monday Night Football with Neville and Carragher, and they were debating about the younger managers through now. That when we say younger managers, obviously we're talking what 40 to 50, I suppose, as opposed to the older ones. They all seem to play this kind of progressive style of football now. They all want to be the next Pep or Klopp, that type of manager. And what they were saying was, isn't that the difficulty that if you go down this route with your Conte, what's the succession plan for Tottenham after Conte? Is it that we bring in another Conte type that wants to be pragmatic and compact and counter? You know what I mean? So I guess that's half the problem. If we were winning now, we wouldn't care. If we were winning right now, we'd say that's a problem for 5 years. But we're not winning, and I'm scared about what the succession is if he's here for years. What do you make of that? Am I being too harsh?
No, I agree. I agree completely. First thing, I think all what we've seen at these other clubs, it's a word we hear at our club a lot, which is infrastructure. But the only times we hear about infrastructure in our club is infrastructure that makes money. But unfortunately, these other clubs have infrastructure that deliver the values of that club behind the scenes. The Brightons, now Arsenal have got it. Chelsea have an infrastructure there. Right, they still spend a lot of money, but they have an infrastructure there, bringing players through. All these teams do. This was our team. Our academy has never produced anything really, bar Ledley King and Harry Kane. That's it. Yeah, there's no track record of bringing in through top players. As Alex says, a lot of them are English based because we've never actually invested. As a club, we talk about the academy. Dan even likes to throw it out there, but he never actually does anything with it. It's just there for the sake of it. So these other clubs invest in that infrastructure that costs money, doesn't make money, but then makes money in another way where it brings in revenue either from saving money because you've got players coming through, or you bring in players that you then can sell on for money, and bring a revenue stream. But we're not interested in doing that, and we've not done it for years. Well, we've never done it as far as I can see. So that's, I think, where we got to start. Get someone in or a couple of men in or whatever, a project, right? This is your project. This is what you're going to do. I agree with Dave as well about continuity with the director of football and the manager, but I don't think it's these two. Yeah, because these two, neither of them have a track record of embracing young players. Paratici is not one for finding them. Conte's not one for using them. It's just not a match. So if that's what we want, then we have to then scrap them two, and then go out and get the director for like Arneson was. Arneson, when he come in, that's probably the last time we had any infrastructure. I'll go back to that when he started snapping up Tom Huddleston's, Michael Dawson's, Michael Carrick's. He was bringing in young English talent. There was a clear plan there what we were doing, and we benefited that for a number of years. So I think that's what we have to do. So reset there. And then once you've got that, then you can have a philosophy how you then select your manager, because then you've got the infrastructure in place behind the teams to support that manager. If we have to, because Conte's style of football is unique to him, really. There's not many, I don't know any that really play the same way. And it's hard to then manage a club to recruit for that, because then what happens, as you say, what happens when he's gone? All we're doing is constantly in turmoil all the time. So we have to go with a majority rather than what just how one manages.
I want to ask a question as well, because what I hear a lot is that, we haven't had a kind of philosophy at the club since Poch. Now, whilst I accept Poch played some beautiful football, I still don't think the club as a whole had a philosophy around it.
No, he didn't. That was just everything fell right on the pitch, but behind the pitch there was no players coming through.
Right.
If anything, Poch was probably counter to that, because he kept on players rather than loaning them out. I think people say he was the best thing for young players. I don't subscribe to that, really. Good ones that played in the first 11, yeah, but the ones like the Winks and the Skips and all that, especially Winks and Kyle Walker-Peters, should have been gone out on loans. But his preferred method was to keep them with the first team training all the time, and it never worked out. Where other clubs were loaning them out and then bringing them back.
This was going to be my point, Pete. Is look, again, I'm not knocking the football that Poch played, but even in that time, the club was very much the 11 he had with him. So there was nothing coming through from youth, whether that be he wasn't playing them or whatever it may be. I've said this on many a stream. 7 of his famous 11 were at the club when he joined. Now, yes, hats off. He coached them and got them playing, but it wasn't like he came in, bought loads of young players, bought all of these players, that revolutionised the club. And I think people are mistaking what was 2 or 3 years of very good football on the pitch for an actual plan and strategy for the football club.
As a whole.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, as a whole. This is where we're going. This is the journey we're going to go on. And we've never had that.
Sorry, I should have added. I should have added. And if Poch comes back now, I get what Alex is saying, and we'll let him back in after David and Kuva have had a chat. But if Poch is brought back now, my worry is that 7 of that 11 aren't there. Now, could he do it with 7 of this 11, adding 4 players?
Yeah.
Maybe, right? He could. But he isn't, for me, he isn't that guy that brings through young players. And I think, as you said, a lot of that was because of Dele Alli. We heard that he brought through young players. But Rose was at the club, Walker was at the club, Vertonghen, Dembele, Eriksson, Kane, Kane. 7 of them were all there, and Lloris.
I will come back to the same point again. If we don't have a plan as a club as a whole, not just the manager, the whole club, where is it going? And this is where Levy's got to then go, right, I'm either going to get someone in to make that plan up, or he's got to make it up himself. I'd rather someone else do it, because the only plan that this club has ever had since he's been here is how to make money, is grow revenue. That's been the only plan. If he could have a plan for football as good as he done that, then we'd be laughing, because his plan for growing money is amazing. Yeah, they know what they're doing in that respect. But when it comes to a plan for growing a club on the pitch, that's where it falls short. So then go and get you someone, ideally one that ain't be banged up in a couple of years, and go, right, this is what I want. This is I need you to deliver this. I want a structure in. I want scouts in. I want to get players in from all over the world. All what David's saying, someone who can implement that policy and has them contacts to do it, and has a track record of doing it, rather than someone who don't and then because we have a habit of getting these people in and trying to mould them to what we want. Like we're trying to be Chelsea, getting Mourinho and Conte in without actually being Chelsea with the spending. Do you know what I mean? It don't work. Yeah, we've been trying to get Paratici in, who likes doing big deals, like Ronaldo's and stuff like that, but we don't do that. So it's like there's no compatibility whatsoever. Get someone, have a plan first, have a value, communicate it to the fans, most importantly, actually be genuine about it, not put out some pissy statement at the end of the season, and then oh yeah, we're going to play good football, we're going to brace the academy, we're going to do this, and then go and get Nuno. Nothing like that. Actually, put the plan in, get an idea how you're going to do it, and then put the statement out to the fans saying, "Right, this is what we're going to do," because you've already got the wheels in motion. That's what needs to happen at the club. Because the matter is, Poch, Conte, whoever comes through the door, will be saying the same things because the infrastructure behind the scenes is not there as a whole club. It's always it's just about the first 11, and that's it.
Yeah, Kuva, I'm aware you haven't spoken for a little bit. I mean, what do you make of all this? Look, that's a real deep dive into Tottenham, rather than just sitting here as fans going, "We want this signing and that signing." I suppose a real deep dive into recruitment and strategy and planning. And I know you can't see it working out with Conte in that way either, can you? Because of the longevity.
Sorry, can I add one thing? Paul Kuva? So once we got that plan, one thing Levy must do is not get involved, because that's where it always goes wrong. He seems to have a Mitchell, then he gets involved and fucks it up. Don't get involved. Give the people the plan and then work on making the money. Leave it to them people that are doing it. That's another thing that always happens at our club. Go on, Coop. Sorry, mate.
No worries. Yeah, I was going to say on the Pochettino, what he did at the club. Let's face it, Pochettino made his name from what he did at Southampton and Espanyol before that, where he did have to work with youth players coming through. Our lack of bringing them through is probably the reason he didn't do it with our club. We tend to buy players in. You could argue Dele Alli, Ericsson, Kane, they're all young players when he took over.
No, they're not young, were they?
Yeah, okay. The fact. Well, Dele Alli's pretty young, still teens, wasn't he?
One.
Okay.
They're not academy players. They're not academy players.
Yeah, fair enough. But like I said, is that Pochettino's fault that we don't produce academy players worthwhile?
No,
I don't think so. As I said, he's already proved that he can get up to a reasonably high standard doing that. Now, what he should have been doing is getting us to a higher level than he did at Southampton, and he did achieve that. It all comes down to, as we're all saying, I can't think of anybody that isn't saying it. It's that direction, it's that focus, it's that what do we actually want to achieve here? If we're all pulling in the same direction, we could be doing let's face it, I always say it, Ajax, that's the club to look at. You look, people say, oh, it can't be done in the Premiership. Manchester City are proof it can be done. All right, they spent £1 billion on getting the squad in the first place, but that was until they developed the infrastructure in the background, and you see these youngsters coming into the team now. It's evidence that putting it in place in the first place and a bit of time to do it, they will come through. West Ham seem to be coming out of players on a regular basis. You know, the likes of Declan Rice. I mean, going back a few years, but you'd have Rio Ferdinands and Joe Coles and Carrick and other clubs do it. We don't. It's so rare we get somebody. Yeah. Although there we go, somebody else saying Ajax model won't work here. Why?
Yeah, I don't understand why.
It will work. If you look at Man City, right, players that aren't good enough for their first team, they're still making 10, 15, 20 million quid off some of these guys. You know, sending like Bazunu, I think they sold 2 to Southampton over the summer. You know, players that maybe aren't good enough for them or at the right level for them right now, they're still making bits of money off their youngsters. Look at our youngsters we let go. Edwards didn't take took fuck all for. Madueke left on a free because, he backed himself to be able to get first team football. And you're seeing a lot of this from a lot of our players over the last couple of years. And the reason why it's happening is because there is no pathway into the first team, because we're constantly stuck with a load of shit, especially over the last 3-4 years, that just aren't good enough to be here, but we're not in any rush to get them out of the door. So then we'll come round to the early rounds of the cup games where you usually give the youngsters a chance. We can't afford to give them a chance because we're trying to play people into a bit of confidence. We're trying to put them in the market to try and ship them on instead of just saying, look, you're shit. You're going to train with the under-23s, and we're going to go with some of the youngsters. There's no pathway there. Jamie Donnelly's father tweeted about it there not so long ago. No attacking options on the bench. Why aren't they bringing any of the academy players up to, I'm not saying that they're the answer, but the point is there's no pathway. So what you're seeing is any players that you do see are good enough, like a Madueke, we've lost him out for nothing. He's gone to PSV, and then PSV are the beneficiaries of the money that they received off Chelsea.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, Everything that we've done, building the stadium and the training complex, we've neglected every other area of the team. The first 11, the academy, the scouting department, everything was neglected because the focus was on the training complex and the stadium. And what we're seeing now is a result of all that. And what they try to do is they're trying to get a quick fix with a Conte and a Paratici, hoping that they're like, I know some people don't like Paratici, I get it, but the way he negotiates deals, try and get him in. So the loan to buys means you can get an extra player in on top of that, because you're not really forking out any money for that loan to buy option there and here and now. But also, like Conte with his man management skills, the fact that he's won trophies, they're hoping that their abilities will be able to sort of hide some of the gaps, but it hasn't. What it's actually done is expose them even further. So for me, it's kind of like you also got a question. I know we all want to get back to where Poch is at, right? But has anybody questioned why we've brought in 3 defensive managers since Pochettino? Well, under Pochettino, when he was sacked, right, we couldn't keep goals out. We were scoring goals, couldn't keep them out. Now, instead of going and buying defenders that are good enough, because we knew that Toby and Jan were getting on, the backup guys were just shit, not good enough, we sacked him and brought in Jose Mourinho, because we looked there and said, best defensive manager in the world, he'll be able to get a form of cohesive unit out of it, because that's our problem, and that means we don't have to spend money on it. Well, reality, that didn't work. They sacked him. So they go, okay, well, maybe Jose was too defensive, so we'll bring in a hybrid. We'll bring in Nuno, who's defensive first, but does have bits of patterns of play going forward like he done at Wolves. Again, didn't work out. So they said, okay, well, it's not working out in a 4. Don't really want to spend massive amount of money. So what we'll do is we'll bring in a manager that plays a back 5 system, so that he can try and add an extra body in there and form a cohesive backline. Again, hasn't worked out. Just accept the answers that have been given to you and go and spend the money. Take no for an answer.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's because at the end of the day, it's cheaper to replace a manager than it is to buy a back 4.
Well, they can't sack this one, because if they sack this one, they've got a tune of how much money to spend it on. You know what I mean? But it's not going to happen anyway, isn't it, really? Sorry, Savva.
Sorry, no, just quickly, guys. Look, we're going to end the show in 5 minutes, and after that, Henry will be going live in 5 minutes. So please go and show him some love. He hasn't started his show yet. He will in 5 minutes. David, great points again, man. You've been on the money tonight. For me, it's things like this season when you're sat, not you, when the royal you, the royal we, whatever, are saying, oh, well, Dyer's crap and Ben Davies is crap and Longley's crap, but yet not one youth player is given a chance to step up like a Sayers. You not once get to see him against Forest in the League Cup or Peterborough or Preston. You know, we're talking about right wing backs not being good enough. Surely we must have a right back or right wing back in the youth team that you go, right, go and have a game. What's the worst that can happen? We don't do it. We don't do it.
I think we're bottom of the league in the under 21s, aren't we? Like, we're so far off. Like, them players are so far off reaching the first team. It's unbelievable. And this is
quite possibly.
Well, we bought one, and he can't even do it. We don't even give him one.
I don't think it really matters the position they are in the league. It's all about how the individual players are developing.
Most of the good ones have gone on loan anyway, because they needed experience. They can't do it in the under 21s anymore.
It's this underlying sense of mistrust with the coaches allowing the youth team players to progress and get into the first team. It's like there's this cut-off switch.
Look at Markandé. Second he signs a contract, he goes elsewhere. He's like, there's no pathway for me here. I know that for a fact. And he was ripping it up. Well, there's no guarantee he would. And obviously, he got a bad injury, didn't he, as soon as he signed for Blackburn. I don't think he's even played much for him yet. But that's the fact that our most promising talent in the academy is going, I don't think there's a pathway for me here. So thanks, but no thanks. But my first contract is going to be elsewhere.
Yeah, it's worrying, isn't it? I mean, look, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that those young players come in and completely revolutionise. But even when you look at bigger clubs than us, Chelsea, so many injury problems, chucking in kids, right? Liverpool, so many injury problems. They're chucking in that young, I can't pronounce that, Beštadić in midfield. In midfield. You're seeing Fabio Carvalho's getting games. You know, Chelsea have put in that young, Ball? They put in Humphreys at centre-half in the FA Cup. And you look and you think to yourself, that's 2 clubs that aren't doing great at the moment either. But you know, they're willing to give a youngster a game. We wouldn't even give Jed Spence a game that we bought, even though we're all crying out for something different to Roy.
Against Portsmouth in the cup, he can't even get a game.
And that for me is where I think it completely comes down to, again, how much does Conte, not this isn't Conte's fault because that's the manager you bring in, but how much does Conte want to go, right, let me have a look at a few of these youngsters. He don't care about that. Let's be really honest. He cares about, I want to win. I'm a winner. Let me win right now. And Spurs fans, we're so fed up. We haven't won anything. We're all going, we want to win right now. But the problem is, we're saying it, he's saying it. To achieve that is so far away. Let's win right now is easy to say.
The academy part of it with Conte, he will play young players, but they have to be exceptional. They really have to.
Story was one at Inter, wasn't he? Kuva?
Yeah, exactly. So it can be done, but just proves that what's coming for our academy at the moment isn't up to that kind of level.
This is the whole thing, though, guys. If you had your proper 15, 16-man squad of players that Conte can trust, and then you also had a good youth system, then, well, Conte can start looking at some of these youngsters. But right now, where we're at, he's not going. If he doesn't have faith in some of the backup guys we already have, he's not going to have any faith in any youngsters.
Yeah.
So it's a knock-on effect, and then, like, this is what I said earlier. This is why we find ourselves in the position we're in now. Just for instance, just quickly on the youngsters, Man City have an academy out in Africa. They routinely bring them over to play their academy here in England, and they're constantly taking players from it. We don't have any of that. We don't want to put money into it.
Yeah. Basically, this is just backfired on Levy, and it's completely it's oversight completely.
They invested in it. They invested. We didn't invest. Man City have been in League Two a few years ago. Do you know what I mean? No, longer than that, but you know what I mean. So they've come up and done, but since the owners come in, that was their plan, and they've invested in that club, in the infrastructure all over the world to make
crucial thing, though, Pete. The crucial thing is they took guys from Barcelona who already done it with Barcelona.
That's what I mean. That's what I was saying. Get people who got a proven track record in doing that, and then give them the job. Don't get someone else who does it, who signs big players, and then get him to. We need to find youth gems around the world because he's not used to doing that. Get one who does that. There's plenty of them out there. We've seen them go to other clubs. Do it. You ain't got to get the top one because that might be out of our reach. But there are scouts out there who can find players. If Brighton can do it, we can do it. End of. Yeah. Leicester can do it. We can do it. There's no excuse.
I am going to end the show there, guys. Listen, all I'll say on this is this is the whole thing. I applaud the whole notion of win now. I applaud the notion of just back Conte when people throw that phrase around. I get it, but we're not in a position where just backing a manager in 1 or 2 windows wins us things for me. I think we're miles away from it. There's a lot of other clubs chucking a lot of money at it. Hence why I've always said this is not the right man for our club, not that he's not the right man for a top club. But listen, guys, I'm going to end it there. Listen, everybody, I am putting the link to Henry's show in the chat. I will not be joining him tonight, but please do go over and show some love to Henry Wright TV. David, thank you so much for coming on. We'll see you next week. And listen, some great points tonight, my man.
No, I appreciate it, my man. Hopefully I performed. You said earlier on I'll keep my place if I performed. Hopefully I've done that tonight. But just quickly, I don't need to say if you don't know, get to know, because everybody knows who I am, because they all reference the Don, the Gil Messi and stuff like that. Find me over the Irish Hotspur. Get over there and smash the subscribe. And look, hopefully some of the points I raised tonight, we can probably go into more detail in future shows.
Yeah, absolutely.
David on fire tonight. I think Alex is showing the B movies tonight.
Yeah. Pete, thanks so much, mate. Listen, as always, great points, very articulate. Thanks for coming on.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Mr. Box Office, a very subdued Mr. Box Office today. Maybe if Spurs lose next week to City, we'll see a little bit more explosiveness from you. But thanks for coming on, mate. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you always know that you need the star in the show, you know what I mean? Because you've got the Waffalo down there, the Irish Hotspur, because you know that every single time I'm going to banter him. Yeah, he made some good points, but, you know, he needs to always get to know and needs to always know that it's always Mr. Box Office time when he's on a mic, you know what I mean? As I said, and that's it, really. So thank you, Savva. Like I said, I'll send it back to you, mate.
And Kuva, as always, much love, my man. Thank you so much, and I appreciate all your support on the channel. Thank you very much. Everyone in the chat, thank you. Some really good discussions in the chat tonight. No trolls tonight. Lots of good chat. Lots of good, honest conversation. Thank you to Ben Kaufman, top moderator. Big, good man. Go out and see his coffee shop. Listen, everybody, we'll see you soon. I'm going to be going live with Henry on Henry's channel probably on Tuesday night for transfer deadline, where we'll just probably be really frustrated, but we'll see what happens. And we'll be back next week after the Manchester City game. So everybody, thank you very much. Take care. And as always, we are out.
Levy out.